I'm Berge Ayvazian, Senior Analyst with UBM. I'm here at Berge World India, and we've been spending the last day talking about the transformation of the network toward 4G. And in India, that takes an interesting form because we're really implementing 3G and 4G simultaneously, and we're moving toward this heterogeneous network concept where we're supporting multiple networks and different frequency bands on the same access network. But what really is happening is we have to rebuild the backhaul in order to support all the traffic that's going to result from this new access network. So we're here with Juniper. Ryan, thank you for taking time with me. And we really want to understand what is the new requirement for backhaul that comes about as we move toward this heterogeneous 4G network.
Well, thanks for asking. I think the first point that we need to be aware of when we're talking about architecture for 4G is that we simply can't evolve a 3G architecture for backhaul into the 4G world. The changing nature of the all-IP network means that we have to start considering moving things from a point-to-point more into a full mesh network. We also have some additional security concerns that we have to consider as well. So it isn't so much as a iteration on the 3G architecture. We have to take a fresh approach to designing the architecture for a 4G network. Now in India, one of the challenges that we also face is that the ARPUs that operators receive here is incredibly low. So what we also need to do is find a way that helps us scale an architecture over time, knowing that initially operators will be capital constrained in how they build their network, but as 4G services pick up, they'll have to grow to support a huge amount of data.
So Juniper has a very strong position on the transmission side, and in fact, you have a very good position with operators in general. How does that extend then into the backhaul space, recognizing that you're actually supporting 2G, 3G, and 4G traffic on that backhaul?
Absolutely. So there's a range of technologies that operators use for their 2G and their 3G backhaul. And as we move to an all-IP world, we have to also use the opportunity to introduce Ethernet. Now, as I said before, there's going to be a lot of changes to the network's geography as the services continue to use more data. So what we also want to do is make it easy for operators to evolve that 4G infrastructure they place initially over time as the traffic demands grow. So what we're going to do is we're also going to promote the use of MPLS to decouple the service layer itself from the underlying transport technology. And that means that we can support a wide range of mobile services. We can also support a range of consumer or even business services over that same infrastructure as well, and deal with adds, moves, and changes in a much more effective way.
This network has to be very scalable. And you mentioned low cost, but that would extend not only in the capital domain, but really into the operating cost.
Absolutely.
So in that mode, then how do you deliver highly resilient, high capacity backhaul at such a low cost?
Well, that's a great question, and one of the technologies we announced at Mobile World Congress this year is a technology called Junos Fusion. And what Junos Fusion does, it enables us to take a large number of these backhaul or metro elements and actually manage them from a more central location within the network itself. And what that means is, from an OSS perspective, the number of touch points within the network is greatly reduced. So when you reduce the number of touch points, you reduce the complexity and therefore the operational cost. Now, this technology that enables us to extend the control plane across the network, it's third party as well. So it's not just about controlling Juniper devices, it can also work through any equipment that supports those open standard interfaces.
Well, in fact, that's the nature of a heterogeneous network. It's not just different frequency bands and protocols, but it's really different vendors and different generations of networks that are being supported at the same time. And maybe you throw Wi-Fi into that mix as well, which normally isn't thought about as 4G, but we really think that operators are going to be using Wi-Fi in conjunction with these existing cellular networks. So thinking about Juniper, you're really putting a lot of emphasis on SDN and NFV and virtualization in general. How does the virtualization of the transmission side help you get into backhaul?
Well, that's another challenge that operators face, just as we're getting to the point where India is on the verge of launching 4G services to the mainstream. The goalposts for network architectures have been shifted, and there's these new buzzwords, SDN and NFV, that people need to consider. Really, when you think about the impact of SDN and NFV, what we're talking about is the increasing use of an IT layer that's spread across the IP layer of the network. So we have to bring those two worlds together. And at Juniper, the way that we're extending the network reach into the IT world is through MPLS. So using our SDN controller, Junos Contrail, we're able to stitch together the physical network into the virtual network and create virtual network overlays that provide these services. Now, the good news is as well that this stitching doesn't just occur at the edge of the network, it can occur in many different places. So we may see that intelligence or that resources from the cloud actually appear within the metro or further out into the backhaul network over time as well.
The one other thing you mentioned was security, and I'm interested to know, we know that networks here are extremely vulnerable, and there are a lot of security risks. I spent time earlier on a previous trip with a guy who's responsible for the cyber attacks and security of the operator. That's very high priority for them. And I know they have to extend that same capability into their backhaul networks. So how are you bringing security into your solution?
That's another good question. And if you look at mobile security, particularly on the GI LAN, Juniper is a leader in that space, and we have a lot of experience in dealing with providing security in a mobile network from physical equipment. So as we move into a more virtualized world as well, one thing that we've done is to make sure that our security products also become virtualized. Now, it's not sufficient just to have a virtual product, a security product, or a physical one. What we're also doing is making sure that the intelligence is connected between them, so that you can have virtual security working in tandem with physical security. Now, what that means for a 4G network is we're going to start to see things like distributed security gateways that push further out into that backhaul network to provide the security of control traffic and user traffic, and to ensure things like user-to-user traffic over that network is also secure.